Happy Monday, everybody. Hope your week's starting out well. We're back with our Monday practice. As a reminder, if you want to get a little bit of a deeper dive into the elements and pieces of our Monday practice, check in the description below and check that intro video out. It explains a little bit what we're about in our Monday practice. But at its essence, this is an invitation. I invite you to take some time for yourself and just reflect on things that are going on within yourself. By doing that work, you're creating ripple effects that can make change in the environment around you. And in that way, if we're all doing a little bit of that, it makes a big difference. So this week, we're jumping into the concept of healing. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But last week we started back with the concept of movement, which is foundational to Meristem, and looking at the subtle movements and gestures that pop up that we can start tuning into to get to know what a thing is even better maybe than we currently do by looking at it just with our eye or only paying attention to the space that's being physically inhabited. With that in mind, one of the first philosophical foundational points that we work with at Meristem is, as staff, we are not trying to heal a student or another person. Our job is to hold space for somebody to grow into the fullness of themselves. So if the interpretation or the definition of healing that we're working with in that regard is that in each person is the capacity to already be whole. Now we come up against challenges and hard moments and pain in the world, and that might disconnect us from who we are holistically and all the full capacity that we have to bring. But it's there. And at Meristem, we really believe that it's there. And it's our job as teachers and instructors and facilitators to hold space to invite the opportunity for an individual to connect to that full capacity of themselves as much as they can. And we call that awakening the possible, which is our slogan and our catchphrase. So this week, we're kind of combining movement as an underpinning element and looking at this definition of healing, which is you are already whole, but maybe there's been disconnects created. How do I reconnect to the wholeness of myself? And taking steps towards that, we call that awakening the possible. So we're using movement to look at and to study where that wholeness is there, where that wholeness might be disconnected or having a hard time manifesting itself, and how do we rebuild those bridges to effectively make strong connections to our holistic self. And so we are not facilitators. We're not working on somebody. We're we're creating an opportunity for somebody to expand themselves. The practice for this week is communication. And oftentimes in communication, we're going back and forth. I understand the word that you're saying, you understand the word that I'm saying, or I don't understand, and we kind of exchange in some way. We also have talked in past Monday practices about all the different types of communication that it can occur via body language, gesture, all of that. And then there's something I think that can go even deeper. And so we're going to start this week with listening. So am I really hearing what somebody else is saying? And hearing at the level that actually says, I don't even need to know the language that you're speaking in, but I understand what you're trying to say. Can you listen at the level that you can pick up somebody and what they're trying to express, even though they might be speaking a foreign language? And that starts with finding stillness, quiet within yourself, and a complete openness to what is coming towards you from another person. And so the practice for this week is going to be exploring in your communication where you're able to do that deep level of listening to experience what somebody's saying, and notice the times when you're just too tired, or there's just you don't have you don't have the energy to do that, or what are your habits that are keeping you maybe from hearing what's being expressed to you at a variety of levels. And just waking up and becoming conscious of that. The value for this week is I want to learn individual potential. And so within that is the exploration to notice the various movement habits that are around me, in and around listening, in and around this quality of healing, and tuning into what I can learn about how I'm moving and what's going on. So, for example, I might, be sitting in a meeting and I'm keeping my tone nice, but all of a sudden I'm finding myself with like fists that are gripped and tight. And inwardly, like I feel, something rising up, and I'm feeling hot, and I'm feeling, a little bit on edge. And I just notice that. And then I say to myself, okay, well, let me release my fists for a second. Let me relax. Let me settle into my feet. Let me feel my feet on the ground. And by simply even releasing my fists, I've changed the gesture that my body is currently experiencing. And I might have even changed the direction of flow that's happening around me. And therefore, all of a sudden, I pay attention to how does that feel? And for me, when I do that, from a closed, gripped fist to an open hand, it feels way better. And it would be really draining to me to be like this for an extended period of time without releasing and relaxing. And so we're paying attention to the way our body is responding, and the way we're responding from a movement gestural standpoint to what's going on around us, getting to learn those habits and exploring a different type of gesture. And just like we talked about listening and communication, when I notice those habits, if I can find stillness, just real calm, and let that, and just become present to that movement, the opportunity for that movement to find its natural homeostasis can occur. And that's what we would actually call healing. That I'm listening so deeply to the thing that I'm engaging with, that it comes back to its natural healthy state simply by being heard, by being seen, by having the opportunity in the environment that it can grow towards. And this is what we call Awaken the Possible. So to recap, just on our infographic, we're facilitating by listening the opportunity for somebody to grow into their holistic self. This is called Awaken the Possible. And we only do that by taking bite sizes, or what we're comfortable with, or the simple things that we can engage in. Don't take on all your trauma at one time. Maybe take on that one simple habit that you do every day, which is like, I get pissed off when the fork is in the sink when I come home. Could I think about that or have a different gesture towards that fork in the sink? Holding space, again, deep listening and stillness are some of the most effective ways to hold space. And so you're checking, am I overactive as I'm engaged, or am I, bringing too much energy, or can I be still? Can I really be still and take in? Listening, regulating your nervous system, and observing these subtle movements. And that's this week's Monday practice to awaken the possible.